Greetings, my name is Veronica Heiskell, and the Director of Experiential Learning and Student Employment here in Career Success. So today we're going to focus on salary negotiation. Now, you've already clicked on this video, so there's a very good chance that you've already decided that you want to negotiate salary. I will very briefly talk about why it's helpful and meaningful to negotiate salary, and then we'll dive into specific techniques and strategies that you can utilize to negotiate, whether that's for an academic or non-academic job. So we know that these large-scale disparities in pay exist alongside your race, ethnicity, and gender identity, and that these disparities have not substantially changed over time, right? We continue to see large disparities in wage earnings. Why I talk about that when it comes to salary negotiation is because salary negotiation is one way that can have a really big impact on the kind of salaries that you earn moving forward. And maybe you knew this, but I know coming out of college and even grad school, even my master's program, I didn't really have a clear idea of how this worked because I had never gotten a raise before, right? I was just working for minimal pay. So when you get a full-time job offer, especially at a university or a company, they're typically providing you a salary. If you negotiate that salary, every kind of increase that you get is going to be based on your salary and a percentage increase. Let's say in this example, if Jim accepts $45,000 and acknowledges that he'll receive a 1% raise each year, Jane negotiates an extra $5,000 and she negotiates a 4% raise every third year. So she's like, fine, I'll accept that 1% raise, but I expect, every 3 years as an additional bonus, whatever. So after 5 years, their gap has widened by a couple $1,000s. So it doesn't seem like a lot, but let's say you work at the same company for 40, 45 years, the gap in pay that you're earning each year becomes larger and larger. So the reason we highlight this is really to say that our raises are all modeled when it's a salary position based on percentages. So if we can get a higher base pay, that will increase. If everyone receives across the board increases, you're going to end up making more money, right? And a higher percentage of money with that higher base pay. So my goal today, I think we've discussed enough the reason why we do this, right? That it has impact, it can have impact on our career. Now, I will admit, none of us are realistically going to work at the same company for 40 or 45 years. That's just not how the world of work works anymore. Maybe if you're faculty, you might end up staying at the same institution with tenure for a long time. But the majority of us who might not be going the faculty route are likely not working at a place for 40 years. That being said, there's still some basic information that's going to help you to approach this process and feel as confident as possible in negotiating your salary. There's two things that you need to know. First, you need to know what the average salary is based on your education experience in the areas where you're searching. And the second is you need to know your bottom line. So what is the minimum amount you need to make in order to live, right? And you can set that bottom line. It doesn't have to be literally to live. You can set that bottom line with what's the minimum that I need for the needs that I have in my life. And that will help you determine what's my I'm not going to accept it rate. What will I not go below? How do you find what kind of salary you should be earning in a specific industry area with your education and experience in a particular area? So that's where a bunch of websites come in. So these are a variety of websites. I encourage you play around with them. These ones change all the time. So these screenshots may be a little bit outdated, but the information that they contain is still valid. So check out salary.com so you can look up the individual section. So you can enter in a particular area and a job type to receive a salary estimate. So as you do this, right, you can see that they might come up with multiple job potentials, maybe an HR assistant 1 versus 2. You can then do a comparison to learn more about what makes each of them unique, read your descriptions, see any job titles. Most of the time, you're going to be able to select based on the years of general work experience. So let's say if you have 1 year of experience, could go either way. You might apply to the assistant one or the assistant two. It also gives you information about industries and the typical education level for folks in that industry. It then will offer you what we're all looking for, that bell curve. So it's showing us what is the median salary rate. Where does it think you are based on some basic information that you've listed? What's the bottom 25th percentile? What's the top 75th percentile? And it's really helpful for you to know this curve so you can see exactly, okay, if I'm thinking about the 50th percentile, maybe I don't have sufficient experience for that, but I also shouldn't be receiving kind of the base pay. I should be somewhere in between that 25th and 50th percentile. And the goal of looking at this, right, is that you're receiving a range. So they're recommending a potential range based on the area you're looking at and the types of roles at the time. Now, this is outdated, as I mentioned. These salaries would be higher in our current area. Absolutely, if we're looking in California, the numbers would be higher. You can also scroll down and learn more about the benefits available in that industry. Not every industry is going to offer the same level of benefits. Some of them might offer things like bonuses. Most will provide a base salary. Some will include bonuses. But you'll see here, what are typical benefits available, right? Healthcare is becoming more and more of a cost. So that number seems really low for what healthcare cost is right now. So you'll see what's my base pay, what's my total compensation I could anticipate, and how is that made up, right? What is time off? Do I receive a pension? We then can scroll down and see the years of experience, education levels, the company size, industry, etc. So that is the first website we look at to find what would I expect my pay data to look like. Then we move to Pay Scale Salary Survey. So here you can click the Exploring tab or evaluate a job offer. It's up to you. So Pay Scale similarly will require the same types of information you're entering. Your goal is to just pull together all of this different information from different sites so that you can have a more confident target salary range that you're aiming for. And the nice thing about all this information is it is based on the current market. So during times of recession or economic downturn, it's going to reflect lower levels of wages potentially versus our more prosperous times. We're adding skill sets that are needed. You can add in any certifications or license if it's relevant for that position. And then it's giving you a median. Sometimes it's more challenging to get the detailed salary report, but you can typically get a good sense of the median, compare it to the other areas. You can also see what it looks like based on other titles. And the final area I like to look is Glassdoor. If you're not familiar, Glassdoor was created to try and create transparency around the actual experiences of folks at different companies or organizations. Glassdoor realistically gets folks who are really excited and loved their job and folks who hated it. You're not often to find those folks that are in the middle, but the salary calculator, if you want to get on Glassdoor and do anything, it forces you to provide your current salary. So it does have pretty solid data on salaries in different areas. It's a new feature. So Salary Explorer, again, we're entering the same kind of information. You can get as specific as possible. And it's letting you know this is what the base pay would look like and what the 25th, 75th percentiles look like. So if I'm taking my numbers from each of these sites back in the day, I would have a pretty specific range, right? So I might create a $5,000 to $10,000 range depending on the pay rate and pay band. You can even go a little bit higher than this as your potential target, but you know that if you could probably get away with, right, 40 to 45. That's based on the data that we've got. So you might say 30 to 43 or 40 to 45 would be your target range of what you'd anticipate. And the next thing you need to do is figure out what is your bottom line? What do you need to make in that area in order to afford to live? So the first step is to calculate your take-home pay. This is a fun step. I, again, think most of us, when we did our first job, it was surprising to see what our take-home pay is versus what we were being paid. So Paycheck City is the website I like to use. There's tons out there. Find one that you like. So you're going to enter in the date, your state, the gross pay, how often you're paid. Lots of information here. You can get even more specific if you want to add specific deductions, like, for example, if you know that they take a percentage out for your pension. So we'll see that if I were being paid 43 as my monthly pay back in 2019 in the state of Texas, that I would likely be paying the following amounts to federal withholding, Social Security, and Medicare, and my net pay would be just under $3,000. Now, monthly budget, there's loads. Personally, this NerdWallet worked better when you lived in a lower cost of living place. This is pretty challenging in California, given our cost of living. But you can enter in whatever you want. There's loads of different monthly budgeters. The key is to figure out what budget works best for you. What do you need to pay for your various bills? You can use this 50, 30, 20. It doesn't work for a lot of us in the state of California. My goal is find a budget calculator online that you like, fill it out with what you anticipate based on looking at what rents look like in that area, what utilities might look like. There's a lot of good estimators available that you can search for. Find your bottom line, and that's going to help you understand, I can't accept something lower than this. So it will also help you understand as you're prepping, what's the realistic likelihood that I could live on this salary in this area. Now, that's not information you're sharing with the company or organization. It's information that you know, so you know when you want to walk away, when you're like, nope, I can't do it. That is all the research that I encourage you to do in advance to make sure that you're confident and comfortable, ready to talk salary. What to do if you're asked about salary at each stage. So if an offer has not yet been made, right? Let's say they are asking you to fill out salary information on application. So being asked about salary is illegal in the state of California on any kind of application. But if you're applying to opportunities outside of the state, they may ask you. Whenever possible, try to avoid filling out salary information on applications, particularly if you're thinking about your GRA ships, right? That's not the kind of salary you'd anticipate making once you are out in the field. You also want to avoid being the first to state a salary. So if you don't have an offer on the table, there is no reason for you to give them a number. It's not appropriate for them to be asking you. The company should be the one providing you that information. So if they're asking you during the interview process, right, they haven't made an offer to you. Maybe they're like, what would it take to get you to accept this job? Figure out a response that works for you. A sample one is, I am excited about the job. It just depends on the offer I receive. I'm happy to respond to a specific offer. So get comfortable. This is something you're going to have to practice. Put it into your own language. The reason why we don't want to mention salary first is because of anchoring. So we don't want to say a number that is lower than what they were anticipating offering us. We basically don't want to give them any information if we can help it until they provided us a number, because then we understand where they're coming from. We can think about our budget and negotiate from there. You're just in a more strong position when they're putting the number out first. That way they aren't, many times I think they ask you the question because they're hoping that you will give a lower number so they don't have to pay you as much. That's right. Our goal is that you get paid the wage that you should be earning. Once an offer is made, just like I said, you still don't want to be the first person to state a salary. So if they're like, we're really excited to offer you this job, what salary would it take to get you to accept? Here's a bunch of options, right? Well, what do you typically offer well-qualified candidates? Put it back on them. I'm happy to consider any reasonable offer. I deserve a salary commensurate with my experience. I'd love to hear what you typically offer well-qualified candidates. Let's say that you have done a couple of these strategies and they're still putting it back on you. It's very awkward. If they refuse to move forward and you want to continue talking with them, you can mention the range. And this is important. You're mentioning a range. You are not mentioning a specific salary that you're looking for. You're just putting it back on them. Well, based on my research, someone with my experience in education in this area earns between $40,000 and $45,000 with a median salary of 42. That's all you're saying. You're not giving them anything. You're just reflecting like, I'm aware of what the typical ranges are here. Happy to hear a number from you. That's what to do if salary is brought up. Once they give you a number, then we enter the negotiation space. How do we negotiate? When we think about a successful negotiation, first and foremost, much like we talked about with interviewing, confidence is key. Confidence is really helpful and meaningful. So what makes you feel confident? You've been offered the job, number one. It's important to remember. They want you to work there. Think about back to your 3 key things that made you a qualified candidate. I want you to remember that and think about the specific skill sets that you bring, right? And you want to have those examples ready to go for the negotiation process. Employers are not going to care that they're offering a wage that is not livable in their city. They're aware, I would imagine. That's not going to help you in negotiating. But having ready to go what you already bring, even though you already talked about in your interview, this might be with a different person. You want to make sure you have examples of your experiences ready to go to help explain, as I shared, I have extensive experience in this area. You know that I'm going to be able to hit the ground running based on this. I'm expecting a salary closer to X number, whatever it might be. Practicing is going to help you feel more confident. The first few times it's going to be awkward, but really, I think it's also remembering what's the worst case scenario. Truly, the worst case scenario is that they say no, but you at least asked and you saw if there was a possibility, right? In these budget times, it's more likely that you're going to hear a no, especially within higher education. There's not likely a lot of room right now for any kind of salary negotiation, but you should always ask. I encourage you that you asking is not going to mean they'll rescind a job offer. And if they do, that's probably not a company that you want to work for if that's how they operate, because that's not, not a legitimate practice. Now, you've already done your research in advance. So that having that research knowledge is what can fuel you in successfully negotiating. You're aware of the market, you're aware of what's available out there, you've got your experiences ready to go, and you've got ways to demonstrate how your experiences can help that company. The salary ultimately is based on some portion of things that we have control over and many others that we don't, right? You can control your ability to negotiate and demonstrating your capabilities. We don't have control over the budget or the market rates for the job, but you're aware of the market rates. The budget is a mystery, right? We'll never really know what kind of budget the company actually has. What we do know is that they're going to try and pay you as least as possible, but still get you to say yes. And your goal is the opposite, right? To get the highest amount that they're willing to pay you. Now, let's talk benefits. Sometimes you'll hear that salary is non-negotiable, right? That's the highest offer that we can provide you. And in those instances where the salary isn't really negotiable, perhaps benefits are negotiable. So, right, your monetary benefits, yes, a salary is included, but you might also be able to ask for bonuses, percentage raises, profit sharing. Again, that's going to be all like really corporate, stock options potentially. Those monetary benefits may or may not be on the table. Let's say if they let you know the monetary benefits aren't really negotiable, non-monetary benefits can often be a place that you could get additional support. So for example, you might be requesting working from home or having remote kind of work for a period of time, or being able to use equipment at home, negotiating potential what like your vacation days look like, any professional development budget, potentially a title, travel stipend, right? There's a lot of things you might be able to negotiate here in the non-monetary benefits. Now, I will admit at state institutions or federal institutions, the non-monetary benefits are not often negotiable. But with the rise in remote work, generally a conversation around remote work or work flexibility, those tend to be more successful in what you could ask for, as it often doesn't have any kind of cost to the company or organization. Okay, so Normally when I do this in person, we have conversations. I'm just going to walk you through each of these scenarios and talk briefly about what you could do. And hopefully you'll leave feeling more comfortable and confident. My key is that you've got to practice. So practice aloud with other humans to help you through this. You're welcome to book a meeting with career engagement specialists. We're happy to talk you through the process and work it out how to approach the salary negotiation. So if during an interview, an employer asks you, what would it take for you to accept this job? We know that we want to deflect. So you might say, I am really excited about this job. I am happy to consider a specific offer, happy to respond to a specific offer. So we're shutting them down. We are putting the onus back onto them to make us an actual offer with a number before we respond. So, second scenario, an employer offers you a position and asks, what is your ideal starting salary? And they haven't given you a number yet. You're going to respond with one of your ways to push it back onto the company. So I might say, I believe I'm a highly qualified candidate. What do you offer well-qualified candidates? Okay, next scenario, an employer offers you a salary that is $5,000 below your minimum. What do? Well, you negotiate, right? So let's say they offer you the 5,000. Thank you so much for the offer. Based on my education experience, I know that I can hit the ground running in this job. I have already done XYZ project, and based on the interview, this is a core focus of this job. Based on my education experience, my qualifications, I was anticipating a salary more in the range of X to X. So you put that out there, see what they say back, and negotiate back and forth. Now, I wouldn't be negotiating just to the minimum. I would be including my range, right? The full range that I was anticipating. So they can see that they're substantially lower than it. It may not lead to anything, right? You may decide if you can't get them up to at least your min to walk away. Final one, an employer gives you an offer and states it's only on the table if you say yes then and there. So what we call an exploding offer. What do you do? This one is really tough. What I would do might be different than you, because for me, this would signal a company I don't want to work for, to be honest. That kind of corporate environment would be, I just think that that's not a practice that I would want to engage in. So I would probably decline and say, if that's the case, I decline the offer. Best of luck in your search, right? But let's say it's a job that you're really interested in, right? I would respond, thank you so much for the offer. I do need time to think about it. I have to speak with my family, say other stuff and discuss options. I'm happy to respond to an offer, but I can't respond today. So you're just being honest with them, right? About what you're looking for. If this happens to you, if you talk with an organization, especially a for-profit company, and they've done this, please let us know in Career Success. We then ban them from recruiting students from our institution because that is, and many other colleges do the same thing. That is not a practice that's endorsed. It's a practice that is frowned upon, and companies should not be engaging in it. So if they do, let us know so we can block them from recruiting our students, and hopefully they will learn. And we explain why. The goal that they learn their lesson and stop engaging in that practice because it's predatory. I encourage you, if you have specific questions, we've covered a lot of topics in this presentation. I hope that as you practice aloud and start to build your confidence in what you bring, that you'll reach out, ask us questions, and feel much more confident in your approach to negotiating salary. Please reach out to us at csuccess@ucsc.edu. You can schedule an appointment with a career engagement specialist through Handshake. We would love to see you, and please reach out if you have any questions. Thank you.